Alright, so you got your HP tuners over here, and you're all excited. You got your V8. You're ready to go real fast, have some fun, but you don't know what the hell to do with this whole tuning interface and how to get your car running. Well, there's a couple simple steps everyone's gonna have to follow, um, and I'll guide you through those. First step would be you need to have this on like a laptop or something so you can plug into your computer in your car. So you'll have your little HP tuner scan tool thing. And let me see if I can, you know what I'm saying? This guy. Um, this side goes into your OBD2. This one goes in there, and then there should be a USB cable that goes into your laptop. And once that's done, you go up here, you open up VCM editor. So you're gonna have to download the HP tuner software. So if you log into your HP tuners, you can see download current build on like I guess the main page. So you download that VCM suite, and it comes with two things. One is this VCM editor, which I have here, and the other is this VCM scanner. The scanner is used for logging. So once you have the car started, it will log all these parameters on graphs. Alright, so once you have your laptop hooked into your car's computer, you're going to turn power to the car on. You don't want to start the motor, just have power go into the ECU. And you're going to go to Flash, and this read vehicle should be available to select. It's grayed out on mine because I'm not hooked up to anything right now. But that's what you're going to do. You're going to click read vehicle, and it should pop up a box in the middle here with like do you want to read the vehicle? And there should be a little menu probably which says it sees your ECM and the type it is, and there might be some drop downs for like the TCM if you have an automatic transmission computer hooked up. And then there should be like a read entire or something like that. So you read that, and once that's done, you have this little tune file. So I have mine saved as 07ly6.hpt. This is an older file I have, but it's still pretty updated. So once you have this, you can, the first thing you want to do is to make it so your car can actually start up and drive. And for that, you're going to go to this OS tab. And you guys probably have heard about VATS. Oh, that's being weird. Stop dragging. So this right here, VATS, is Vehicle Anti-Theft System. And that's basically what keeps you from being able to start the car from when you do these motor swaps, unless you hook up the BCM, which most people don't do. That's the body control module. So it's pretty simple. When you do your tune, it should say enabled, enabled, enabled for all of these. And to disable VATS, you just simply click disabled. Real easy. And then there's this other one here, starter fault checks. This is something which this depends on how deep you go with the wiring if you want to have this enabled or disabled. So in my case, this was a manual transmission, so I didn't hook up a lot of extra things. I didn't hook up like a neutral safety switch. I didn't hook up like a brake switch. I didn't hook up the starter solenoid circuit. So with automatic transmission, you have to be, in park. You have to have like the brake pedal pushed, and then you tap the key and it will crank the car until it starts. So it's real nice. You don't have to hold the key and crank. But I didn't do any of that for the manual transmission, so the computer will recognize there's some crap missing and it won't let you start the car. So I had to disable it for this car, but I have it enabled on the automatic. So that's just up to you how much you have wired, if this needs to be enabled or disabled. Just remember, if your car's not wanting to start with these disabled, then it might be this your culprit. So these are the main things. Like once you have these disabled, you can then go to Flash, and you can do right vehicle, and there will be like different options for the right. Again, it will say, do you want to flash, just the ECM, or do you want to flash the ECM and the TCM? And then there will be an option for right entire or right calibration. So when you do the VATS delete, when you disable these, you have to do a right entire. And everything else after this, you pretty much just want to do a right configuration. The right entire takes longer, and it's only necessary for basically this. So once you do that, you do right entire, and it will erase your VATS, and you should be able to at least start your car. Let me warn you here, there's a couple other big things to look at. So I'm going to start with, let's see, engine diag. So this engine diag tab, this is going to be something that will annoy you if you don't mess with this. So basically, if you swapped your motor, you probably removed a lot of crap. So you probably got rid of some emissions controls, maybe some catalytic converter stuff. You probably don't have the pressure sensor in the gas tank or anything like that hooked up. So what you're going to get is a bunch of check engine light codes coming up for all that crap which is no longer attached to the car. And to take care of this, and this is, a little trick too, if you want to pass, inspection or some sneaky stuff, you just go to this DTC tabs under here. And these are all those check engine codes that your car can throw. And you'll see there's so here this one's not, this SES enable, this means it'll turn on the check engine light, the SES, and the error mode will be what it puts in the scan tool. So mill on first error, mill on second error, no mill. Maybe I got that right. Mill is the light. So basically, I think maybe I got it. So I think the SES might be the code in the scan tool, and the mill is the check engine light. So basically, what it boils down to is if you got something that you don't want to show up as a check engine code, you uncheck the SES enable, and you go to no error reported. So you'll see there's a lot of them in here. So for example, things you're going to want to disable, you probably only have your front O2s and you've deleted your rear O2s. So I think bank 1 is driver size, sensor 1 is the front, sensor 2 would be the back. So normally you want to just keep these bank 1 or these sensor 1 O2 sensors hooked up. These are the front O2 sensors which you're going to pretty much need to run like a good tune, and these second sensors are basically for like catalytic converter efficiency. So strange to have SES enabled for that. But anyway, you're going to want to disable these ones which have sensor 2. So you're going to want to uncheck them. It's probably old ass tune. All the sensor 2 ones, and change them to no error reported. That way your check engine light won't go on for you having no rear O2 sensors, because you're not supposed to in this case. There's going to be some other ones you'll see. You just have to go through this whole list and kind of check them as they pop up. There will be things like EGR, like you see right here, exhaust gas recirculation. If you got EGR system hooked up, you're going to want to uncheck those. If you got these evaporative emission stuff, which you probably will, this is like your purge and charcoal canister crap from the factory gas tanks. You're going to want to disable all those. Probably these fuel sensors, because you're probably not using the fuel meter from the old gas tank. All sorts of crap like that you're going to want to uncheck and do no error reported. An easy way to see which ones you missed is you go here, you disable all the ones you think you need to disable, and then once you have your car running and you flashed your configuration, so flash would be flash right vehicle, then you can go into your logger VCM scanner and you flash your car, assuming, and you're in your car, you plugged up your little scan tool, you're ready to see what the hell you did to the car. So what you're going to do is you're going to plug it in. You're going to start the car this time. You're going to want it to actually crank over and be running. And I might want to inject right here. If you changed out a bunch of random stuff, like you change your fuel injectors, you don't want to really start your car yet because your car's going to run like crap. But once you got your car in a decent state of running, you start it. You start the VCM scanner and you go to here, this little picture of a car, connect to vehicle. So you'd click that, and this says I'm not plugged into the car. But normally that would just connect, and then all these gauges should have like little hands appear, and then that's how you know it's connected. And then this big red button starts scanning. You do that. Actually, no. One step back. You don't want to start scanning just yet. If you just want to look at the DTCs, you go to this vehicle tab, and diagnostic and info. And that, for example, should throw all your check engine codes. So from there, you can see, okay, well, this weird code's coming up, and it'll have like the number code. And that number code will relate to, in your VCM editor, the engine diag code. See these codes? That'll match up. And then you can be like, oh crap, so I have like some weird RR excessive wheel speed code or something which you know you don't care about because you don't have a sensor for. And then you can just go and turn that off. So that's how you can kind of drill down into all the codes and get rid of all the little pesky ones remaining. But back to the tune. So you're tuning, so let's say, for example, you got your motor and you swap the intake manifold and the injectors or something. So this is a big one. If you got different injectors, you definitely want to adjust the injector parameters before you try to start the car, because it's going to run like crap or not even run at all. So this one's pretty simple. You go to the engine tab, you go to fuel and flow rate, and then this flow rate versus press, that's the flow rate of injector versus the pressure of, I guess, the intake. And you'll see this little table. Everything in HP Tuners is tables, by the way, in case you haven't realized. So what it'll have is flow rate over here. And so this number is your, I guess, flow rate of the injector, and up here is each of these, I guess, columns is the pressure of, I guess, the intake manifold. So basically, think of it this way: you got your intake, and you know it can sometimes be under different levels of vacuum depending on what throttle you're at. So basically, different pressure on the intake's going to mean different force against the jet of the injector, so it's going to have a different flow rate. So that's why you see these numbers are all different. So this is, I think I have a, like a 44 pound injector or something, but you see it ranges from 23 to 57 I guess pounds flow rate. If you have a vacuum regulated fuel, I guess a fuel regulator that's based off of your intake vacuum, which you pretty much need to have if you have like any boost, if you're running a turbo or a supercharger, then these values should be flat. These should all be one value because your fuel pressure is already getting regulated based on the pressure of the intake. So this table is basically you just set it at the flow rate of your injector. But for all those other guys that just have the regular setup, there's going to be like this increasing trend of pressures. So what you could do is you could go Google, be like injector tool or something, HP Tuners injector flow rate tool, something like this. And one of these should probably have a tool which you can calculate this table for your flow, the flow of whatever injectors you have. But the easier thing to do is look up the injectors of the pressure of whatever this car came with. So for example, let's say the pressure of these injectors out of the factory were 40. So I know, okay, this car came with 40s and I want to swap in 80-pound injectors. Then all you got to do is pretty much take all this, select all the cells, and just do ×2, because 80 is twice that of 40. So this should be accurate for that. Although it seems their max value is 63.5. Alright, so the maximum value is 63.5 in this table for injectors. So if you're exceeding that pressure, so say you got some 80 pounders, which is common for turbo, what you actually have to do is something a little more complicated. So you're going to basically set this table to 40, and then you're going to go to your air fuel stoichiometric table, which is normally like 14.7. So for example, if it was 14, you would turn it to 7. So that way a 40-pound injector at 7 is equivalent to an 80-pound injector at 14. So you're going to have to go into that stoic table to change that number if you have to go above 63.5. So from the factory, you'll see GM's power figures will be like, all right, the Camaro's getting 400 horsepower and the truck's getting 335 for like the same size motor. And what that usually boils down to is a slightly different camshaft and different spark timing. So what I've gone and done, and what you can probably do safely, is you go to your HP tuners again, and there's this button right here, Tune Repository, and in there you can search for tunes of all sorts of different cars. So for example, this motor is a 6-liter LY6. It's a Gen 4, so it's got the square port heads, and so it's going to have, the head design is pretty much one of the big indicators of the timing curve, as well as your camshaft. So I figured it's going to be pretty similar to, say, LS3 Camaro, which has the square ports heads on it. So what I did was I basically went here, grabbed a 2010 Chevy Camaro with 6.2 and a manual transmission, and you just do search, and you get people with these, they'll post all these tunes here. So some of them will have, I've done some crazy shit to my car, and here's my tune. But for the majority of things, you'll have people posting their stock tune file. So you can go and you can download this tune, and there you go, I downloaded it, and now you can open it, and here you go. This is telling you you need to buy a license for each VIN number you have on the tune. So for your car, you'll have to use 2 credits to buy it, but you do not want to buy someone else's VIN. So no thanks to that. And you can go into the engine tab and spark, and there will be this main spark advance, high octane, low octane. So what we got going on here is high octane is the default table. Your car will always be running in the high octane table unless it detects you have knock. So if you have too much timing, or if you have shitty gasoline one day and there's knock, it will go into this low octane table and do some sort of blend between the two to come up with a lower spark timing. That's hopefully if you actually set it up so that you have lower timings in your low octane table. So that said, go into the high octane table. And so this is the Camaro, just Control A, Control C to copy. And then I go into, say, my trucks table, Control A, Control V, and you'll see there's some values that have changed in this table. I already did this once, otherwise you'd probably see a lot more reds where the value has increased. And you can just leave it at that, close it, and then you'll basically have the spark profile of a sports car on your truck motor. And that's, for me, I've done that for all my motors. I've never seen any knock show up, so I assume it's safe. I wouldn't think that the factory would put too crazy timings to begin with. So that's what I did, just basically to help pump your truck up to sports car level. And then you're going to go into the low octane. So you did your high octane. You go to low octane and basically paste the same thing, and then you take it and you multiply it by like 0.85 or something. So what this is going to do is it's going to basically lower your low octane table by 15%. And that's pretty much a standard practice. You can do 10, 15. So basically you have the same spark curves, but if it detects knock, it's going to drop it, 15%. You always want to do that. There'll be some dumbass tuner shops out there, and they'll copy both these to high octane because they only want to run in high octane mode. But in the real world, you're driving around and your shit starts knocking, and these tables are the same. You're just gonna fuck your motor up. So you definitely wanna lower your low octane from the high octane so that in case some shit's going bad with your car, you don't fuck it up. So that's the main spark one. All these other things are kind of just you don't really need to mess with them unless you got some weird shit going on with your idle. And speaking of idle, you go to the idle tab, and there should be target idle speed. This is going to be one of the few things you're going to mess with idle, unless you want to get more deep with it. But you basically You can leave this all stock, but if you're having idle problems, say you got a big ass cam, you can just increase this number some to a higher RPM, so your car will idle a little higher, and that should usually relieve stuff that's going wrong. All right, so now that we got the big things, we got, the VATS disabled, our little check engine codes disabled. We made sure our fuel injector pressure is right, and if you want, you can mess with the spark to copy over like a Camaro or Corvette spark timing curve in there. Um, the next thing is the airflow, and this is something you don't want to touch just yet. So basically, right now we have a pretty good base tune for the car. We can go to flash, we can write vehicle, and for this do write calibration. So any changes in here, you do write calibration. If you do any OS changes, you do write entire. So you write calibration. You let your car take that new tune in. You go out, and then what you're going to do is you're going to open up your VCM scanner. So I should begin by saying that this is pretty much what you want to do as like a basic guide. This isn't really stepping into the advanced pieces of this. If you're doing like some crazy shit to your car, like you have forced induction or you changed a lot of stuff, like you stroked it and got new heads and everything, then the steps, you shouldn't really follow these steps. You should do a little more in-depth guide. Like for example, for a turbo, you want to, before you start it, you want to add a lot of fuel, make it to your tables, because you don't want to go lean, otherwise your motor's destroyed. And you want to remove a lot of timing. But for just an NA build where you haven't done much, like a little camshaft swap, this is the way to do it. Very simple. This is the easy version. If you want to get more advanced, you can reset your long-term trims and disable the MAF and do all this crazy stuff. But for most of us, all you want to do is, now that you got your base tune out and everything, you want to go for a test drive, and you want to drive for probably at least a half hour, and look at this graph. What you're going to be looking at are these LT and ST fuel trims, and these are basically going to be reading your O2 sensors to see if your engine's running lean or rich. And if you ever see like it looking real lean, just stop right away. If like you started it and start driving and everything's just real lean, like 10 or greater, then you should probably stop it and add some fuel everywhere, because going lean is not healthy for your engine. But if it's looking all right, like below 10 on the leanness, so I guess that would be like a plus 10. But if it's minus, that's rich. You don't really have to worry about rich too much. It'll be red. You'll see it'll be red in here. But anyway, what you're going to do is you're going to drive around, and you'll see when you're driving that all these cells will start to get populated depending on your engine RPM and the pressure and the intake. And so what you want to do is try a bunch of different driving styles, flooring it, coasting, putting it in a low gear and flooring it, putting it in a high gear and flooring it, and to just kind of populate all these cells to get a good basis of where your engine's at. And once that's done, this whole table right here, you'll see a bunch of pluses and minuses. For the easy version, we'll just look at these ST fuel trims, the short terms, because basically these long-term fuel trims are kind of based on the short-term fuel trims. So if you fix the short-term fuel trims, the long-terms should work themselves out. So you got this logged. You're gonna go now into your tune. You should stop driving and then save your log. So you go up here to this little icon beside this folder, should just be save log file as, and you could do that, or you can go log file, save log file as. So you can keep that for your further reference. So next time you tune it again and you do the same thing and drive around, you can see compare and contrast about what happened after you changed some values in your tune. So now that you got that, you want to go to your tune, and you go here to edit and virtual volumetric efficiency. And again, this is for like 07 and up OSs. They have this, if you have an older motor, it's got some slightly different thing, but there'll still be a VE table somewhere in there. and you're going to be doing something similar. So if you take a look and you see all this engine speed for manifold absolute pressure, it looks kind of familiar. Engine speed, manifold absolute pressure. So there you go. That's basically, this one here is what your engine thinks the values should be. And then once you actually drive it, it will populate here with how far off it is from that thought value. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to add this table. You're going to copy all the values in there, and you're going to add them to here. So for example, 400 RPM 15, we have 516. And if this one here had 400 RPM 15 had like plus 10, you'd basically be adding 10 to this number. And you do that for all of them. You should be able to, if you configure this graph with graph layout, you should be able to make these values of the axes line up. So see, this one default is 400, 800, but you could be like 400, 600, 800, and basically make them match up that way. Then you should be able to just do a copy all here, and then go into here and do everything, and do a paste special, and add value, and that should basically do it. And then what you can do also normally is after you add the values, or if you're adding just clumps of values, you want to smooth it out, because the engine and just most things in life, they're not like an electrical system where it's ons and offs. It's going to be like smooth transitions between states of operation. So you want to smooth out all the values, so you can just select it all and just hit this smooth selection button there, and now kind of blend them together. And once you got that, you can click this calculate coefficients button here, and this will basically populate the underlying tables of your engine tune to represent this VE table. And this is for the Gen 4 motors. I might remind you, for the earlier ones, they had their own tables in the tune which you could modify, and I don't think they had like a math table or something. So this is kind of biased towards the Gen 4. I highly recommend them because they're just better in every way and the prices are the same. So go for those. But anyway, now that you have this table updated, you can go ahead and you can flash. You can do the flash, and you can write vehicle and write your calibration. And then you can go out and rinse repeat and see if these values are getting better or not. And take it from there until they're all pretty close. Within 2 is generally accepted as like perfect. So if it's plus or minus 2, then you're basically perfect. Don't worry about it. Plus or minus 5 ain't bad either. But you definitely want to get them under 10 to be a good tune. So once that's done, you pretty much have pretty much a simple tune that's going to be better than stock and get you some easy horsepower and have your car running pretty nice, and just enjoy it from there. Like I said, there's more advanced things that can be done for if you're doing boost and if you're doing crazy modifications, but for that you really want to look into the specifics. There's videos out there which are hours long going into all the stuff you have to do for that, so I'm not going to go over that. And because when you have modifications like that, that's where you can actually do damage to your motor if you don't be careful. So this is the quick way to do it for just your basic, you got your motor from the junkyard, you want to make it run, and you added some camshaft and stuff, and you want some more power from your spark. So that's that. I might put up some more videos about some little things for tuning. Let me know if you need anything else there. Otherwise, I'll just continue working on the car. But thanks, and see you later.